Retro Studios is one of those companies that no matter what they do, they just can't seem to catch a break. With the announcement of Metroid Prime 4 and Samus Returns, I was kind of hoping that people would be, what's the word I'm looking for, less hostile towards their next project, since when Tropical Greatness was first coming out, the main complaint towards that game was, where's Metroid Prime 4? Why would you make a sequel to your most successful game before Metroid Prime 4? If I were to review this game, I'd give it a no Metroid out of 10. You know, things like that. Boy, was I wrong. So Star Fox Grand Prix is heavily rumored to be Retro Studios' next project, and naturally, a lot of people are upset because apparently they're wasting their potential and talent on a racing game because racing games are just the scum of video game genres, and racing filth is just way below Retro Studio standards or something. But what a lot of people fail to tell you is that before Metroid Prime was even a thing, they were working on a car combat racing game like Twisted Metal. It just got canceled, so okay. And since uploads on this channel is kind of a rarity nowadays, I was gonna do an E3 video, but leaks are coming out of everywhere and everybody's just gonna be calling me some type of fraud because I'm just stealing other people's leaks, even though a lot of the stuff I predicted is coming true. Might as well just talk about something. For one, in what world is making an arcade racing game considered a waste of talent? Arcade racing games have had some of the biggest impacts in all of gaming. Not only that, but just on a Nintendo level, arcade racing games have always, okay, well, not recently, but generally speaking, always had a strong presence on Nintendo platforms. Nintendo racing games. I'm not even talking about third-party stuff like Snowboard Kids or things like that. F-Zero GX, Kirby Air Ride, Wave Race, 1080, Mario Kart, and so on. A lot of these games, for me anyways, tend to be some of the best games on their respective systems. If anything, we kind of need more Nintendo racing games because Mario Kart is really all we have, and Mario Kart is like 4 years old at this point. And I see a lot of people using the argument that because it's a racing game, that means we can't get this epic cinematic story that we've come to love retro for. Let me direct you to a game that a lot of people keep saying should come back over Star Fox if they're gonna make a racing game anyways, F-Zero. Prior to F-Zero GX, F-Zero was just a futuristic high-speed arcade racing game. Nothing more, nothing less. It wasn't until F-Zero GX came out when they had the brilliant idea to expand upon the world and put these great 80s comic book looking characters to use and throw them into a cinematic story, which is something that I constantly applaud F-Zero GX for. This is something that over a decade later, Mario still hasn't done in Mario Kart. We don't really see a lot of these racers incorporate stories like F-Zero GX, Jak X Combat Racing, and even Sonic Riders try to do anymore. Admittedly, they may not have been the best examples of stories in video games, but there's not a rule that's saying if it's a racing game, it has to be a bad story and it can't be cinematic and engaging. Anime has been shown that you could have a decent story through racing. It's been a while since I made an Initial D reference. Let me remind you, a game about going fast in high speeds in a futuristic setting without a story, unlike other Nintendo franchises at the time, actually had an entire anime series of around 50 episodes. That was the thing. I think people forget, but that was real. It just proves my point that if the vision is there, you can make something great even without the source material providing much to go off. But Star Fox already has a story, so there's that. Point 2. Let's stop acting like the idea of a Star Fox racing game is just so extreme and drastically different from what Star Fox is. Heck, it's less drastic than Metroid Prime was for the Metroid series, and a lot of people love that game. I mean, really, does dodging obstacles, fighting other enemies, flying through rings, doing barrel rolls, finding alternative paths, but with other pilots flying alongside you, taking pot shots with lasers and trying to get to the end of the stage to get the best time, not sound like Star Fox to you? You know what else that sounds like to me? The flying sections in Diddy Kong Racing. With the exception of like barrel rolls, majority of the same elements also apply to Diddy Kong Racing's plane races. Heck, even Sonic and All-Stars Racing transformed. Are you guys really about to sit here and tell me that what you're seeing right now in Sonic really looks all that different from traditional Star Fox? And the final point that I see a lot of people saying is, then why not just make F-Zero? Men lie, women lie, Numbers don't lie, people. F-Zero, despite a loud minority, really isn't that big of a franchise like people would have you to believe. People act like there's no reason for Nintendo not bringing back F-Zero, but then when you look at the sales for F-Zero, it's not too good. Now look, I love F-Zero and I would love them to bring it back, but even I can understand why they wouldn't bring it back if they choose not to. It all comes down to sales. Remember when we stopped getting games like Yakuza and Dragon Quest in the West? That's because they weren't selling. Let's look at an unfortunate series for me, Chibi Robo. Chibi Robo pretty much had flop after flop, and the creator straight up said if Chibi Robo Ziplash doesn't sell, that's pretty much it for the series. So don't expect Chibi Robo anytime soon. You know what? I probably shouldn't say that. It's probably gonna reveal itself at E3 and just make a fool out of me, expose me pretty hard, so. But the bottom line is supply and demand. If the game sold, they would have made more. It's not like Nintendo's gonna kill off Splatoon when it's selling millions upon millions of copies, okay? Out of the big three with Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, Sony is really the only one that kills off popular franchises that sold millions. So from a business perspective, of course, Star Fox makes more sense over F-Zero. It's an IP that people are actually familiar with and know the characters to. It's also a lot easier to sell. With the exception of Captain Falcon, let's be real, I could ask the average Nintendo fan what these F-Zero characters were, and majority of them would not know. And I know there's gonna be people in the comment section, well, I know. I'm not talking about you, okay? I know there's gotta be always one guy. To put things in perspective, Star Fox Adventures, some type of weird prehistoric Legend of Zelda clone on the GameCube that really had nothing to do with Star Fox, a huge departure from what Star Fox was, a game that wasn't even intended to be a Star Fox game, still outsold F-Zero GX. In a generation where Nintendo was experimenting heavy with their franchises, making Metroid into a first-person shooter, Mario about cleaning up a Luigi Haunted Mansion game, Chibi Robo an RTS game with Pikmin, and so on, Star Fox hands down had the biggest experimentation with all their IP. And even though it strayed far away from the original template of the series, both Adventure and Assault still outsold F-Zero GX, a game that pretty much mastered its craft at that point. So when you look at things like that, are you really surprised that Star Fox might have been given more priority over F-Zero? I mean, really? It is what it is, people. Now I realize this is probably just a retro studio cycle at work here, where a game or idea is bashed, then it comes out, it raises the bar for that genre and we all love it, just to repeat the process again for the next game. But this whole wasted potential argument in regards to Star Fox Grand Prix, if that's really a thing, it's just ridiculous. Anyways, if this game is legit, I fully expect it to raise the bar for racing. Then we'll be looking at Mario Kart 9, expecting them to take notes from Star Fox. I already know what's gonna happen. Then they'll come out here for their next game and be like, hey guys, Metroid Prime 5, you guys ready? And then people will be like, but Donkey Konga 4, you know, there's just no way they can win. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for this game? Are you disappointed? Do you want them to do something else? Do you want them on an older IP or something? Let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Have a good one.